Can you believe we're in the heart of Gangnam? One of the wealthiest districts in Korea. Home to the rich, the famous, and more luxury brands than you can count. Business and tech hub, shopping, fashion, beauty, it's all here. Globally, it was put on the map by Psy's Gangnam Style. Yet here we are at Bonginsa Temple, a place that feels miles away from the Gangnam stereotype. We're in Samseong-dong, and no, it's not related to Samsung.
Time to go to Gangnam, guys.
This is the neighborhood we'll explore today with Professor David Mason, my go-to expert on Korean spiritual practices and religion.
David Mason is back in the show.
Hey.
What is it? The fourth time already?
Fourth time, yes, for a neighborhood video, yes.
Samseong-dong will surprise us with a futuristic mall, a serene temple, ancient royal tombs, and yes, even Psy's bronze hands.
And by the way, guys, I just read that this song came out in 2012 already. That makes me feel so old. 2012 already. It just somehow feels like 5 or 6 or 7 years ago only. So when you said, let's meet in Gangnam-gu, in the Gangnam district, I wasn't sure why, because usually the things you talk about is not something that you can easily find in Gangnam.
Usually not. But there is one ancient temple, very important in the whole district of Gangnam.
And we're standing right in front of it.
The signboard, which is relatively newer, that says Bongeunsa, the nesting place of the phoenix.
It's surprisingly busy for a midweek.
Well, it's a very busy temple, a very popular temple. Now, the key point is, this is the only ancient traditional temple in all of Gangnam-gu. Every other temple that's been built, either urban center or at the mountains on the south, is a modern temple. So this is the one with credibility. It goes back to the 700s. Because of that, the people of Gangnam-gu, very many are members here.
Yeah,
and people come from all over the nation, all over Seoul City. It's quite famous. And because of this, now we're going to see as we go along, this is the wealthiest temple of Seoul.
The wealthiest temple of Seoul.
The only traditional temple of Gangnam district. Therefore, all the billionaires all live here.
They all donate money.
Millionaires and billionaires, if they are Buddhist, they're members here.
Is the monk driving a Gangnam car?
And it has caused controversy.
Yeah,
because temples are supposed to just operate themselves, basically, modestly, and then give the surplus to the national order of Jogye Buddhism, and then they redistribute the money to the poor temples. There was controversy a long time. This temple was keeping a lot of its own donation money and using it itself in the national order. Say, hey, you're not supposed to be doing that yourself. We run the social welfare and etc. programs. Now, every abbot of a temple and most senior monks, they rotate every 5 years from temple to temple because they don't want the monks to start thinking that this is my temple. But in this case, the head abbot in the early part of this century stayed here for 15 years. He got 3 terms, which became very controversial with the national order, and his parishioners loved him. The people who attend this temple did love him and support him, but the national order kept saying, no, you get out. He finally accepted and got out. There, the 4 guardian generals, which are really Hindu gods originally. These are not Buddhist. The guy has a sword here. The other guy's holding a dragon. They're violent thugs who are hired by Buddhism to defend the entrance of the temple.
Keep the evil out.
Yes, because Buddhists can't use any violence. They're totally vegan. A Buddhist monk can't even kill a mosquito, you see. But there's real evil in this world. There's problems. There's criminals and rebel armies and such. Just like the big, strong muscle man who guards a nightclub.
But how would you explain some of the monks in the past that have joined the war, Imjin Wars?
There are 3 different Buddhist sutras which do say that monks can use violence for 2 reasons: to protect their temple from getting destroyed and burned, and secondly, to protect your nation. Defend your king and defend your nation, your kingdom. What? Because the king is protecting and defending Buddhism, so he's a good king and deserves your loyalty. A little bit of Confucianism here. If foreign forces are threatening to take over your nation and destroy it or colonize it and to murder your king, you're justified to use violence. But like during the Imjin War of 1592 to 1598, the great Japanese invasion of Korea, Korean monks did get weapons, and they killed. Buddhism had already been illegal for 200 years. They couldn't live in the cities. They were only in mountain temples. While the Confucian gentlemen of Joseon dynasty were sitting around all day in perfect peace and prosperity, discussing philosophy and making landscape paintings and poetry, therefore fat, out of shape, and with no ability, the Buddhist monks up in the mountains, walking up and down the mountain every day and fighting bears and tigers to survive or protect their temple. They were tough. So they came down out of the mountains and got weapons and fought the Japanese.
As we enter Bonginsa Temple, it's worth noting that this place served as a strategic base in the Seoul area for organizing and supporting monk soldiers during the Imjin Wars, providing lodging, supplies, and a communication hub. After hearing David's story, I look at monks differently, potential warriors.
This building is one of only 2 buildings of this temple that survived the Korean War. Unfortunately, everything else had to be rebuilt on its original foundations. This is the painting of the assembly of the guardian spirits, those who are not Buddhist. None of these spirits are Buddhist. Many of them are violent. Again, former army generals and such with weapons, but all of these have gathered together to protect and defend Buddhism. This is an antique from 1844.
Oh, wow.
It's one of the great antiques of this temple. Holding the white feather fan is the mountain spirit, Sanshin, who I've devoted so much of my research to. He's there holding the white feather fan and a magical mushroom, the mushroom of immortality. It's not psychedelic. All right, now,
so where are we at?
Is the most famous feature of this temple. It is the great statue of Maitreya, the future Buddha. Sakyamuni came 2,500 years ago, and he's the Buddha of our era and taught psychological liberation. Maitreya will come in the future. Nobody knows when. It could be tomorrow. It could be in another 100 years or 1,000 years. Sounds familiar with other religions,
It
perhaps.
does sound.
But nobody knows, but he will come someday and save the world. He will bring higher level teachings. Buddhists are modest to admit that Sakyamuni's teachings are not good enough.
How will we know when he comes back? How will we know? What's the
lonely saint will appear, the one disciple of Sakyamuni Buddha who has been waiting on this earth for 2,500 years. He was ordered to wait here until the next Buddha shows up, and he will identify that and say, yeah, this is the real guy. These others are fakes or whatever. This is the real future new Buddha.
I had to come back for this viewpoint, guys. Look at this. Buddha overlooking Gangnam. The stark contrast between spiritualism, religion, and consumerism. It's overlooking COEX and the trade tower. There's a little hill you can walk up. You'll get a great view. I love it. And the contrast makes it so much better.
Until the 1970s, this was nothing but rice paddies and muddy paths. Hard to believe, but that's true for all of Gangnam and most areas south of the Han River. And oh yes, Samseong-dong has nothing to do with the Samsung conglomerate. The name Samsung came from the 1914 merger of 3 villages, Bongeunsa, Mudong-do and Dutchman. Also hard to believe, this is already our 122nd neighborhood. That deserves a like, comment and thumbs up, because we still got a long way to go. Subscribe and let's explore the rest of Seoul's neighborhoods together.
Maybe the most amazing thing about this ancient temple is that just by coincidence, across from it, starting in the late 1970s, is one of the main commercial business centers of all of Korea. We're standing here at the temple entrance. Right across the street is the COEX Exhibition Center, the World Trade Tower, one of the most crowded, active commercial business places right across from this temple. So it's an amazing contrast between the old and the new, the spiritual and the commercial. beat. It just kind of hooked me immediately.
It's catchy.
And then I watched this guy do that. And I was just, oh my God, look at, and everybody's passing it around. So this is the famous statue of the hand position of Gangnam style. This is how people hold the reins of a horse in their hands like this.
Now, one thing you're guaranteed to see on your social media feed is the Starfield Library here at COEX. I've been here before. I wanted to give it another shot. But honestly, I can't say it was anything other than underwhelming. Even visually. It felt crowded, with everyone in each other's way, trying to get the perfect shot. There weren't even that many books to read, and no, they didn't have mine. Just kidding. I do feel that many influencers hype this place, just because it's trendy, I guess. Were they actually impressed when they saw it? I have my doubts. Anyhow, to each their own.
So here we are at Daeheran-ro, a long street that goes through Gangnam. Back in the 70s and 1970s, the mayor of Tehran, capital of Iran, he came to Seoul and met the mayor of Seoul back then. And they were like, you know what? We're good friends. Let's name a street after each other's capital. So this street, which back then was not much more than a countryside road, Gangnam that we know today, didn't exist yet. So they were like, okay, let's call the street Daeheran-ro, and let's call a street in the capital of Iran. Was it Seoul Boulevard or Seoul Street? Now this street turned out to become one of the most expensive streets in the city, and all that happened right before the Iran Revolution, and that's when the relationship between Korea and Iran cooled down, but the streets still, they still kept their names.
There's one last place we have to visit. A beautiful green oasis in the heart of Gangnam. The Solong and Jong royal tombs, where 2 kings and 1 queen rest. These tombs are even connected to Bonginsa Temple. In fact, without them, Bongeunsa's fate might have been very different.
Buddhism was oppressed during the Joseon dynasty. It was made illegal, and all the monks had to leave the cities. However, one way that major Buddhist temples survived is if they were fortunate that a royal tomb of the Joseon dynasty was located nearby them. They would be assigned to take care of the tomb. And so it gave the temple some legitimacy.
Now you feel instantly isolated from the city. It's weird because there's just an open fence in between.
Just here, but you feel like you're in the rural mountains. In a lot of this, there's no trails. It is just wilderness. The tomb statues are guardians, both animals and obviously government ministers up front here, serving the king. And actually their purpose is to try to pacify the ghost. They are trying to keep him, as we say, rest in peace. There's a strong belief in East Asia that ghosts can be angry and resentful, and therefore they will come out of their tomb and cause big problems for individuals who hurt their family, or for even the nation, the community in general. So the idea of rest in peace, keeping them in their tomb, keeping them satisfied, that is kind of the job of these ministers and generals. This tomb is called Samong. It is for King Seongjong, the 9th king of the Joseon dynasty. He lived from 1457 to 94. His wife died pretty early, and he adopted a concubine known as Lady Yoon, but she turned out to be something of a witch. She was later accused of shamanism, practicing shamanism, and then even of poisoning some rivals, poisoning some other pretty girl concubines who her husband was being distracted by, and poisoning some enemy rivals. And she was finally expelled from the Gyeongbok Palace and then executed. Then the king passed away, and her son was King Yeongsan. Yeongsan, who you may have heard of, Yeongsan-gun, an illegitimate king. He ruled as a dictator for 12 years, broke all the rules, ended up being just a drunken party boy, enjoying himself and bringing the nation to ruin. Now we are here at the Jong, which is the tomb of King Jong, who is the 11th monarch of the Joseon dynasty after the very terrible Yeongsan. And Yeongsan was a terrible tyrant, killing people around him. His younger half-brother kept expecting to be executed. And he tried as much as he could to keep quiet and keep out of things. And then he heard that there was a rebellion against his older brother. Soldiers came to his house and surrounded the house. He told his wife, okay, this is over. I must commit suicide. I can't let myself be arrested. That's too much. He had had the knife going to go for his throat, but then soldiers shouting inside to his wife, saying, no, we're not here to arrest him, we're here to make him king. She said, darling, you're going to be the next king. That's why the soldiers are here. When I first came here in 1982, 83, that area was still mostly farmland and orchards. There were just a few places like that Samsung intersection that they were starting to develop, and there started to be big buildings. There was construction maybe going on everywhere, but it was still a very quiet area, and it just exploded in the 1980s.
Samseong-dong is truly a Gangnam neighborhood where the old meets the new and the spiritual meets the commercial. I ended my day with a hearty sundaeguk at Begam Sundaeguk and took home a book by David Mason about Bonginsa Temple. Once formed by merging three small villages, Samsung is now where three worlds collide: the monk, the king and K-pop. These three landmarks combined into one-day trip make for the perfect mix of experiences in Gangnam. And as I wandered through the food area, I stumbled upon a small cluster of old houses, survivors from the days when this was nothing but rice paddies. Incredible that they're still standing.
I will see you in the next Dong video, guys. And make sure to subscribe, like, leave a comment, let me know where you want me to go next, and if there's anything interesting to say about your neighborhood.